This man was about to freeze to death, but instead of putting on his coat, he even took off his pants, and then removed his underwear too. Just like that, the man curled up naked in the snow. Because of the cold, he kept blowing into his hands, but that tiny bit of warmth did almost nothing. Soon he started shaking uncontrollably from the cold. But even then, the man still didn't plan to wear the clothes behind him. Instead, he stared at the plastic bag he had been clutching, and made a painful decision. He gritted his teeth, and with shaking hands poured out the precious food inside, then filled the bag full of snow, and held it to his chest like it was treasure, hoping he could drink melted fresh water in 2 hours. But by evening the snow still hadn't melted. Even worse, none of his wet clothes had dried. The man was furious. He couldn't understand why he was having such terrible luck. He just came to the mountains to ski and challenge himself, but ended up caught in a blizzard with almost zero visibility. He got lost in the mountains, and even fell into a freezing lake. Luckily, the man used to be an athlete. With his strong body, he barely managed to escape the lake, but as he was complaining, he suddenly thought he saw something. The man couldn't believe his eyes and stepped forward to check, but the next second, he froze in place. There was a warm-looking house, sitting right on the peak not far away. After being trapped in the snowy mountains for 2 days, the man finally saw hope. In that instant, he cheered like a kid in the snow. But before he could celebrate for long, a cold breeze made him curl up like a turtle. It was just too cold, so the man had no choice but to put his wet clothes back on, then grabbed his sled and headed toward the opposite peak to seek help. But after just a few steps, he was blocked by a hungry wolf. The man was strong and athletic. He didn't take the wolf seriously at all. He even wanted to joke around with it, but another wolf appeared. The man immediately got nervous. He knew he had to strike first in a situation like this, so he raised his sled and charged at the wolves. Sure enough, both wolves turned and ran away. The man took the chance and ran the other way, but as he ran, he suddenly saw another pack of wolves ahead. The man knew if the pack saw him, he'd be in big trouble, so he used the sled to dig a pit in the snow, then quickly hid inside. Early the next morning, the man drank melted snow to restore some energy, then checked the radio he was carrying, but it still showed no signal. Looking at the house in the distance covered by clouds, the man confidently set off again. As time passed, the sun got more blinding, and after not eating for 3 days, the man's vision became blurry. Then suddenly, he got hit with a wave of dizziness. He collapsed to the ground, and lay there dry heaving in the snow. But he hadn't eaten in 3 days. His stomach was completely empty. All he could throw up was bitter bile. Eventually he lay there weak and exhausted. It took him a long time to stand back up. He learned his lesson for the rest of the journey, and kept his eyes shut the whole way, to avoid getting dizzy again. He only opened them when he felt like he was near the summit, but the sight in front of him almost made him pass out again. The mountaintop was completely empty. There was no house at all. He rubbed his eyes with his hands, trying to convince himself maybe the sunlight was just too strong, so he didn't see clearly. But when he opened his eyes again, the mountaintop was still just as empty. That's when he realized the house he saw that night was nothing more than a hallucination caused by the extreme cold. The crushing disappointment, from hope to hopelessness, was too much for the man to handle. He started cursing at the mountaintop in rage.